Hello there. So my name is Faithful Esther Abahomwangi, and I am the Education USA advisor here at the US Embassy in Kigali. So today we'll be looking at step 2 of the 5 steps to US study. And step 2 is all about financing your studies. Before we get into that very fun topic that many of you want to learn more about, let me tell you a little bit about who we are as Education USA. So Education USA is a US Department of State network that is in over 175 countries and territories and with more than 430 student advising centers. Education USA promotes higher education to students all over the world by providing accurate, current, and comprehensive information on accredited post-secondary institutions in the US. Education USA is your official source to US higher education. So now that you know a little bit about who we are as Education USA, let us get started with step 2 to financing your studies to your US education. Now, disclaimer, before I get started, I want to let you know that 1, Education USA does not offer any scholarships or financial aid to any students that want to study in the US. All we do is provide you this information and provide you with resources so that you can go ahead and carry on with those steps on your own. The second thing I want to tell you is that scholarships and financial aid, yes, they are available, but they are very, very, very few and very, very, very extremely competitive. When I say they're extremely competitive, you have to keep in mind that you are not only competing with students right here in Rwanda for these same scholarships, you're also competing with students all over from the continent and the world. You're competing with students not only here in Rwanda, but from Kenya, from Malawi, from South Africa, from Nigeria. You're also competing with students outside of the continent of Africa, in Russia, in Mexico, in Brazil, in Singapore, in China. So they are few and very competitive. So please keep that in mind as you get into starting this journey to figure out how to finance your education, because I want you to have very realistic goals for yourself. So let us get started. Here in this session, we're going to be looking at what is financial aid. We're going to define financial aid. We're going to look at the different types of financial aid out there, the different terms you should be aware of and familiar with when it comes to financial aid, different financial aid and admission policies, financial aid forms that you have to fill out and use in your application to receive financial aid, and some other considerations. So first of all, what is financial aid? When we talk about financial aid, just think of it as any monetary assistance toward your education in the US. So let us look at the different types of this kind of monetary assistances that you might receive to finance and fund your studies. So the first one we're going to look at is the 2 kinds. There is one that you don't have to pay back, and there is financial aid that you will have to pay back. So we prefer the kind that you don't have to pay back. Which kinds are those? So we have scholarships and grants, work-study programs, and teaching assistantships. Let's look at each of them a little more. When you talk about scholarships, so first of all, you have to know that whether it's a scholarship, whether it's a grant, it can come as a partial scholarship or grant, or it can come as a full scholarship or full grant. So when it comes to scholarships, you're mostly focusing on merit-based. When we talk about merit, what do we mean? By merit, we're talking about your achievements. It could be your academic achievements based on your grades, your really good grades, your really high SAT scores, things like that. Or it could even be your achievements in a sport that you play. Maybe you're a really good soccer player or a really good volleyball player. Or it could be your achievements in the arts. It could be that you're an excellent dancer or an excellent actor or actress. So those kind of things are based on merit, and you can receive this scholarship based on whichever of those merits they are. So there are some schools where if you apply to them, and let me say you have grades above a certain percentage, or you have SAT scores above a certain number, then you automatically will qualify for that merit scholarship, and it's usually a partial one, but not all schools do that. So you have to find out if your school is doing that. The second kind of financial aid that you don't have to pay back is what we call a grant. So a grant usually is based on your financial need. It's what they call And for example, you have probably heard of need-based. financial aid. These are usually grants that if the school maybe tells you to attend the school, you have to pay 50,000 US dollars a year, and they ask you how much can you afford to pay to attend the school, and you tell them, well, my family can only come up with maybe 5,000 US dollars a year. Then the school, in that case, when giving you financial aid based on need, it would cover the balance. In this case, it would be 45,000. So need-based financial aid usually will cover whatever is left, whatever the balance is, and that's usually a grant you don't have to pay back. Then we look at work-study programs. A work-study program is where you are studying on campus, but you also get the opportunity to work on campus, to get a job on campus, and you have to apply for these jobs. However, for an international student, you only have up to 20 hours a week to work, and you usually get paid minimum wage per the hour. And really, this money that you're going to get paid as a work-study student is not enough to pay your tuition or to pay your room and board. Think of it more as just some pocket money, some money you can use to spend on maybe having fun with friends, or going out and buying a jacket when it gets really cold in the winter, or maybe buying some books. So don't bank on work study as, oh, I'm going to go to the US and get a job on campus and pay my tuition that way, because it won't be sufficient, and that will not be a realistic goal for yourself. Then there's what they call teaching assistantships. These are most common for graduate students. So if you're a graduate student looking to get some financial aid, I would highly encourage you to look at teaching assistantships. And with a teaching assistantship, you're basically assisting your professor in teaching the class. You could be required to do tutoring or to do some grading. So those are some of the things that you will be required to do as a part of your role as a teaching assistant. Then there's the kind that you have to pay back, which we absolutely do not like, and I highly discourage you from looking into that option, is what they call a student loan. Now, please stay away from the loans because it gets really costly. In the US, American students themselves, even years after graduating from college, are still paying back student loans. You don't want to get stuck in that rut. Next, we're going to look at what are the different financial aid and admission policies you should be aware of, so that when you're applying to a school, you are very aware. The financial aid policies. There's what they call the merit-based financial aid policy and the need-based financial aid policy. So like I mentioned earlier, a merit-based financial aid policy is highly based on your achievements. It could be in your academics, your sports, in the arts, any area. It could be research, while need-based financial aid is purely based on your need. So in this case, once they like the student and they say, this is a very strong student, we're going to admit them. But we also notice that they say they're only able to pay maybe 2,000 US dollars a year. So we'll just cover the balance. So that's what a need-based financial aid package would look like. Now, when it comes to admission policies, different schools have different admission policies, and you have to be very aware of that when you're applying to a school, because your admission decision will be highly based also on the admission policy. For example, there's the need-aware admission policy. In the need-aware admission policy, here the school is telling you that no matter how strong of a student you are, we are going to consider your financial standing before we can admit you. So if we like your SAT scores, we like your whole package, but we look at your financial standing and we can totally see you not be able to afford to pay for yourself to attend the school, then we're probably going to reject you. Because what's the point of admitting you to our school when we clearly see you'll not be able to fund for yourself, and we probably are not going to give you any scholarships. So sometimes a student will get rejected from a school, not because they're not good enough, but because this was a need-aware school and they didn't meet the financial standing that their school required. While for a need-blind admission policy, here the school is telling you, we don't consider your financial standing at all when considering if we're going to admit you or reject you into the school. So in such a case, you could have a very, very strong student that is going to be admitted to the school, even though they don't have the capacity to be able to pay for themselves to attend that school. And in most cases, such schools that are need-blind can also offer need-based financial aid, which is still very competitive and small. Now, we actually did have a student that you'll get to meet in another of our video series. We had a student in just this last year with the ESP program who got rejected from so many schools because many of them were need-aware schools that considered his financial standing, that showed he wasn't going to be able to pay for himself, even though he was a very strong student with really good grades for the last 3 years, usually at an average of 90%. But because they are a need-aware school, many of them rejected him. Luckily, he got accepted into a need-blind school. He actually got accepted to Harvard on a need-based financial aid package. So please keep that in mind when you are applying. So here are some of the terms that I want you to be aware of and familiar with whenever you're talking about financial aid. It's what they call the expected financial contribution. That's the EFC. And that is what the school expects you as a student and your family to contribute in order to support your education at the school. Then there's what they call the cost of attendance. This is what is it going to cost for you to actually attend the school. That's the COA. You're talking about the room and board, you're talking about the tuition, everything, not just tuition. And that is what they call the sticker price. So the sticker price is usually what's placed at the website, the school website. It could say you require 50,000 US dollars a year to attend the school. It could be you require 80,000 US dollars a year to attend the school. So the sticker price is what's usually on the school website. Now, what is the net price? The net price is what you're actually going to truly pay at the end of the day. And again, most school websites will have a net price calculator where you figure out what am I really going to pay at the end of the day. So with the net price, you calculate it how? You get the sticker price, that's price that's on the school website. It could be 80,000 US dollars minus the financial aid that you've received. You could have received some partial merits based scholarship because of maybe your grades, and you could have maybe received another grant in another area. And so you combine your financial aid, subtract it from the sticker price, then you have your net price. Then, what are some of the financial aid forms you have to be familiar with, because you are going to require this when applying to receive any financial aid. So there's what's the International Student Financial Aid Application, the ISFA. This one is a free application, and even for anybody can use it. It's usually free, luckily. But then there is another one that you have to pay for, which is the CSS profile. The CSS profile is the College Scholarship Service Profile. And for this one, let me say, for example, you're applying to 5 schools. And for the first school, you're going to pay $25 in order to have this application done for that school. But with every other school that you send the CSS profile to, you're only going to pay $16 each. So please keep in mind that in applying for financial aid, there might be a financial investment on your end that you have to put in. What are some other considerations in trying to save money, to cut costs, to be able to fund your education better? One, please think about tuition-free colleges. Yes, there are tuition-free colleges out there. So look them up, do some research, and find out what schools do I not have to pay any tuition for. Please find out those schools because they'll highly cut the cost for this. And then, for example, instead of thinking about tuition and room and board and books, you may only now have to think about room and board and then your books. Then 2, think about women's colleges if you're a lady, because they also tend to have lots of opportunities, girls, and then liberal arts colleges as well. Now, liberal arts colleges tend to be quite costly, but don't let that price scare you away, because even though they tend to be costly, they also tend to be very generous. So please look into liberal arts colleges because they tend to also be quite generous with their scholarships if you are among the lucky people getting a scholarship from them. And then I would highly recommend when you get into your second year to live off campus. Don't live on campus in the school dorms, in the university dorms. Live off campus. Maybe you have made a friend or two by then within that 1 year. So you can rent an apartment outside that's still close to the school and then pay much less for rent. And then also in doing so, you can also cook for yourselves, so you don't have to have a meal plan on campus that also usually tends to be more costly than if you're cooking for yourself. You can also front load your credits so that you can graduate early. What do I mean by front loading your credits? Here, usually you're supposed to take at least a minimum of 12 credits as an international student, but if you want to front load your credits, you can take more credits. So instead of 12, you can take up to 16 or 18 credits so that you're able to finish your credits before the 4 years. And in doing so, you may graduate a whole year early or even a whole semester early. Of course, that whole year or that whole semester cuts off costs for you in the long run. And then lastly, I want to encourage you to be flexible, because you might get, let me say you're interested in let me say, a soccer scholarship. You want to do maybe sports health as a major, but then maybe you get nutrition and health as a major, Or it could be something like computer science, but then you get engineering. So be flexible, because maybe where your first choice was, you didn't get any financial aid for that, but where your second option is, you are offered some financial aid. So take up that financial aid. It's better than nothing. And obviously at the graduate level, you could always upgrade and go back and do that first option that you are interested in. So please be flexible. So here are some of the resources and links I would encourage you to look out in looking for financial aid. You have fundingusstudy.org, you have bigfuture.collegeboard.org, nces.ed.gov/college navigator, fastweb.com, and guaranteedscholarships.com. That is it for this session. That is my contact information once again. My name is Faithful Esther Abahomwangi, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.